Coming up in this video, we are diving into one of the most shocking and misunderstood statements of Jesus. We will explore why he told us to tear out our eye if it causes us to sin, what that really means for our daily lives, and how this radical teaching challenges us to rethink our approach to sin and holiness. You will see just how seriously God views sin, why our focus matters more than we realize, and what radical action looks like in practical, everyday terms. Let's jump right in. Number 1, radical language for radical truth. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 29, Jesus says, "If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away." Now, on the surface, this is shocking, even disturbing. Jesus is using intentionally extreme language. He is not commanding anyone to physically harm themselves. Instead, he wants to get our attention and force us to understand the deadly seriousness of sin. Sin is not harmless or minor. It has the power to destroy relationships, warp character, and ultimately separate us from God. This shocking imagery is meant to wake us up. It makes us think deeply about what we are tolerating in our own lives. It is a wake-up call to deal with sin decisively and without delay. Imagine someone caught in a cycle of lies or addiction. Jesus' words tell us that these destructive patterns cannot be left unattended. Radical change is required for spiritual health. Number 2, the eye is a symbol of influence. In biblical language, the eye is more than a physical organ. It represents what we look at, what we desire, and what captures our attention. Jesus mentions the right eye specifically because it was seen as the dominant eye in Jewish culture. He is saying that the things we focus on can lead us into temptation and sin. If we allow harmful influences to occupy our minds and hearts, we open the door to sin's control. This teaching encourages us to guard our eyes, not just physically, but spiritually and mentally. Practically, this could mean being careful about the media we consume, the environments we place ourselves in, and even the people we choose to spend time with. If something consistently leads us away from God, it must be removed or avoided. Number 3, the radical cost of holiness. Jesus' statement is not about casual adjustments or small compromises. He is calling us to radical holiness. True holiness requires serious dedication to God's standards. Sometimes that means making difficult decisions to remove influences or habits that are harmful. Think of a gardener who must cut away diseased branches so the whole tree can flourish. At first, it may seem painful or drastic, but it is necessary for growth. Similarly, in our spiritual lives, removing sinful influences is not optional. It is a required step toward the abundant life Jesus promises. Number 4, sin's seriousness versus human casualness. Most people treat sin lightly. We tend to excuse it, rationalize it, or brush it aside as no big deal, but Jesus flips this perspective completely. Sin is not minor or harmless. It is a spiritual danger, a force that can destroy the very foundation of our lives if left unchecked. Matthew chapter 5, verse 29 forces us to reconsider our casual attitude toward sin. Think of it like ignoring a crack in a dam. At first, it may seem insignificant, but if it is not repaired, the damage can be catastrophic. This is the same way sin works. Small compromises can lead to massive consequences if we fail to address them. Number 5, action-oriented faith. Jesus' teaching is not just about awareness, it is about action. Knowing something is wrong is not enough. Faith requires us to respond decisively. We must make intentional choices to remove sinful influences from our lives. This could mean ending toxic relationships, quitting harmful habits, or changing patterns that lead us into temptation. Jesus calls us to do more than think about holiness. He calls us to live it actively. When we take these steps, we are protecting not only our present well-being, but also our eternal future. Number 6, the right eye as a strategic choice. Jesus specifically mentions the right eye, which in Jewish culture was considered dominant. By pointing to the right eye, he emphasizes that sin may often target what is central or dominant in our lives. It is not just minor flaws he is talking about. He is highlighting the powerful areas of influence, the things we rely on most that could steer us away from God. For example, if someone's primary temptation comes from pride in their work or constant comparison to others, that is the right eye to cut out first. Addressing central sources of sin is necessary because they influence every other part of our lives. Number 7, an eternal perspective. Jesus encourages us to think beyond temporary discomfort and focus on the eternal impact. Removing something painful now is far better than allowing it to lead to eternal separation from God. The radical imagery of tearing out an eye or cutting off a hand is meant to make us see just how serious the stakes are. This is not about physical pain. It is about understanding that sin has eternal consequences. When we take decisive action against sin, we are investing in a future with God that is far more valuable than any temporary sacrifice we may make. Number 8, practical application for everyday life. Jesus' teaching translates into daily actions. Guarding our eyes, setting boundaries, and avoiding sources of temptation are ways we live out this radical call to holiness. It could mean choosing different media, avoiding gossip, confronting envy, or even stepping away from social settings that encourage sinful behavior. Each action may seem small on its own, but collectively they form a life that is intentionally oriented toward God. Number 9, the seriousness of focus. Matthew chapter 5 verse 29 reminds us that what we allow ourselves to focus on has immense power over our hearts and minds. Guarding our focus is guarding our spiritual life. Our eyes direct our attention shapes our thoughts, and our thoughts ultimately guide our actions. By controlling what we allow to influence us, we are taking a practical step toward removing sin from our lives. This is the radical, deliberate holiness Jesus is calling us to embrace. Number 10, a call to courageous action. Jesus' words are not comfortable, but they are life-changing. They invite us to take bold steps in pursuing holiness, to confront sin directly, and to remove it without hesitation. This kind of courage is not easy, but it is necessary for spiritual growth. The call is clear. Nothing in this life is worth compromising our relationship with God. It requires courage, intentionality, and often personal sacrifice, but the reward is a life aligned with God's will and a future secured in His presence. So you see, Matthew chapter 5, verse 29 is not about literal mutilation. It is about radical commitment to holiness, about recognizing the deadly seriousness of sin, and about taking decisive action to remove what harms our spiritual lives. Jesus challenges us to live intentionally, to guard our focus, and to confront sin courageously. By doing so, we are not only protecting ourselves from destruction, but also investing in a life that truly honors God. This verse confronts us with the radical cost of following Jesus, but it also points us to the abundant life that comes from obedience and faithfulness. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.